Well, I think a lot of Gavin Newsom might say, and did in this interview, he was talking about Joe Biden's strength, the strength of his presidency and what he's been able to accomplish. I know everybody's lurching to Gavin Newsom should run for president. He wants to run for president. How about speaking about the wins of this presidency in a strong and aggressive way? We need Democrats to do that. And I think that's what Gavin Newsom did and can do for the Biden presidency, which is in some ways sort of watching these indictments go by and watching the primary process go by, but probably should be punching harder about the wins that they have.
Listen, there's a communication problem, and you usually don't go, well, usually when people at the White House say it's a communication problem, it's not a communication problem. In this case, you have a guy who actually has some really strong economic indicators out there.
He's made history in this presidency.
You look at the bipartisan legislation being passed. You look at what's happened with the allies, the support not only for Ukraine, but NATO expanding beyond the dreams of any former president. You look at his outreach to Asia and our military strength in Asia. There are so many things.
So many things.
So that's one side of the story. Peter, the other side of the story, none of it is showing up in the polling. And I'm sure you've heard from Democrats like I've heard from Democrats. They all say, most of them say almost unanimously, I love Joe Biden. Joe Biden, I'll forever be grateful for him for what he did in 2020. He's been an incredible president. We need to find somebody else to be president. Everywhere we go, it upsets Mika very much.
Yes, it does.
It upsets her very much. But everywhere we go, even the most loyal person to the Democratic Party and Joe Biden will say that. And this continues to be a question hanging over the White House in the summer of 2023.
No, it does. And of course, President Biden is heading out to California today to start doing some campaigning. He'll do some campaign fundraising events. But you're right. There's a disconnect between the record that Democrats love and the candidate that they don't, that they appreciate and they respect and admire, but don't necessarily want to run again next year. Those numbers, his poll numbers are, in fact, weak, historically weak for an incumbent president at this stage. When you talk about all the weaknesses former President Trump has and how can he possibly win next year, all good points. The real reason that Republicans still think they can win is because President Biden is so weak in the polls, because he hasn't translated the successes he has had legislatively into a larger, broader support. Now, when push comes to shove, if it really is a rematch of 2020 and it's Biden or Trump, a lot of people, as Donnie said, may hold their nose and vote for Biden anyway. The worry for the Democrats is not that people are going to go over to Trump. The worry is that they'll stay home, that they won't be excited by Biden, that they won't get energized to come out. And that's why Gavin Newsom and his profile, his sort of aggressive, pugilistic profile, is appealing to a lot of Democrats because they want a fighter. They want somebody to be as aggressive on their side of the issue as, say, Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis is on the other side. And watching Gavin Newsom shadow box with Ron DeSantis over these last few months is really fascinating. A potential, you can see how that could be a contest of the future. Maybe it'll be a contest next year. We'll see.
We shall see. I'll ask you the same thing, Jonathan Lemire. The White House has to hear the constant drumbeat. And we've gone through it. Joe Biden always underestimated. Joe Biden always wins. But, man, the drumbeat just gets stronger and stronger every week. I mean, he makes a statement like "God save the Queen" at the end of a speech. Everybody's calling, going, this is the end, this is the end. It seems every time there's something that happens, everybody gets on the phone and they start talking and, again, overlook a lot of the successes. I mean, do they think they have a communication problem? Do they think they need to be more assertive getting all of these wins out there?
Well, being nervous is a permanent condition for Democrats, but they are particularly nervous right now about President Biden, despite his impressive, there's no other way to say it, impressive track record in office to this point. And the White House is well aware of it. They can read the poll numbers. They see the lack of enthusiasm among about Democrats about Biden from 24 onward, even as they think he's done a good job to this point. They certainly see concerns about the president's age. Yes, it's reinforced when he says something people don't quite understand. And no one in the White House knew what that God Save the Queen line was on Friday. We asked around. They were nervous when he fell a few weeks ago on stage in Colorado, thinking that what would happen if he had broken a bone or something coming in out on that fall and had to wear a cast for a while. What would that look like? And again, these are things that shouldn't matter perhaps because of his record, and we can point to it. We do on the show all the time about the resume he has. But we also have to be realistic. We're reporting what we are hearing out there, and what the polls suggest is the Democrats are anxious about this.
Yeah, and Rev, I know, leaders are hearing it. The New York Times has called you. I know you don't like talking about this.
I think every single Republican candidate would love to have Joe Biden's problems. They would love to, that their only issue is that they're older.
Why are you getting
I'm getting mad because
upset that every Democrat you talk to says this?
Because get over it. He's your candidate. Start talking about be like Gavin Newsom. Do better. Do better. There's a lot to talk about.
So Rev, it's kind of hard to run a presidential campaign when everybody, every Democrat, it seems, is going around talking about him being too old to run. And again, I'm not one of those people. I'm not. You look at his record, you look at the fact, again, that he has outperformed all expectations consistently. And yet, this Democratic Party, which actually, let's face it, they said he was dead on arrival after Iowa, after New Hampshire, before South Carolina. He's proven them wrong time and time again, and yet, I'm sure you've heard it. You've heard it too.
No, I've heard it, and I'm glad you brought it up so we can deal with it and debunk it. The fact of the matter is, the choices you have right now is a president that gave us infrastructure, gave us dealing with the question of where we are dealing with the inflation, where we're dealing with COVID. And we're dealing with a guy that is indicted in the federal courts and in the state courts, and they're 4 years apart. So, I mean, let's really talk about what we're talking about here. At the end of the day, who do you want to give the country to? Joe Biden is old. We knew how old he was when we voted for him 4 years ago. Yesterday, Joe, was Father's Day. I had to do my radio show. I had to preach a sermon. I had to go out with my daughters and grandson, and I had to do my television show. I decided when I looked in the closet that those nice, new, shiny shoes would not help me all day. I got the shoes that I've worn before because I know I could make it back home.
Amen. Amen.
That's a preacher talking. That's a preacher talking.
And all the people said, amen.
Chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, Peter Baker. Thank you.
Hold on, I'm just curious.
Well,
do you think
annoyed.
he's ever used that before?
No.
You don't think the Rev? You think he just? I like
all
that.
Fresh. Yeah.
I like that.
Donnie, thank you. Donnie's going to be back in the 4th hour of Morning Joe with a new edition, Brand Up, Brand Down.